Hi, my name is Katie Wilkinson, and the software technology that I'm going to present today is something called MediaLab. I currently use it in the program I teach in. We just actually got it a few weeks ago, and so I feel like this is a really good tool to present for those who teach various health science courses. So it's a software that helps develop and assess the students' knowledge, specifically their critical thinking skills, because it actually will present different case studies to these students. It will provide their background, their history, their signs and symptoms. It will also any laboratory tests that were around, and then it will kind of work through, what do you think the provider is going to do? Are there any issues with the laboratory test presented? So it's a really good thing for students who are towards the end of their program with us, because it's going to help them as they get into their actual career. It can be used for traditional online or hybrid courses because it's just in addition to the other lecture material. There's no software needed. You just need an internet connection. The program itself will purchase the licensing, and it depends on if you want it semester or yearly. And then you can also do it for like if you have, 0 to 20 students, 20 to 30, etc., is depending on how much it's going to cost. But the students don't have to pay anything for it. I like this because it provides lifelike scenarios. They're not something that I'm coming up with. These are people who write textbooks and who actually write our national board examination are the ones writing these case studies. So when students graduate from our program, they'll go on to take a national board exam. And when they do so, they will be used to seeing these types of case studies, which will be on there. The program itself does not adapt to the student. So say a student is consistently missing certain questions, say like a clinical chemistry. It will not adapt and offer them more options. But what it tells me is that I can go in and I can assign more clinical chemistry case studies to them when I get their reports back. And I also can go in and I can delete questions and edit the questions a little bit to an extent. So it has a little bit of adaptability. So now I'm going to kind of give you a brief tour of the software and then how I would apply it to one of my courses. So when I log into MediaLab, you can see I can add an assignment. I can add some optional assignments with no due dates. So if they want extra practice, I can go in and I can review their exam answers and see, if there's one that they're consistently missing, maybe I need to teach that further or in more detail. Here's where I edit and delete assignments. And then I can also go in and I can email students saying, hey, you still have not done this. So if I go in and click my add assignment, here are all of the different categories. So here's microbiology, which is something I typically teach. So we can go in, and one thing I should mention is what I like about this MediaLab program is this is what they're offering right now. So they are constantly changing and updating their courses. They're adding courses all the time. So it's not something where we're just going to go in and say, we've already done the fungal infections, but they could come up with a different fungal infection, which is really nice. So I'm going to kind of talk about how I would apply this to gram stains. It's a basic stain that we do in the laboratory. So I can click reading gram stains from cultures, and then I can go in and I can assign it to my students. I can pick when the due date's gonna be. I can also, if they've done it in the past, say in a different course with us, it will not let them redo it, but I can go in and I can allow duplicates if I would like them to do it again. And then it will send them an email as soon as I add it to them. Excuse me. Then the other part of MediaLab that is really nice for microbiologists is it actually has a case simulator. So in this simulator, it's like you are working on the bench. It will present to you the plates as the organisms are growing. So here's a little zoomed in here. It will ask you to describe the colony morphology, the color, if there's any special characteristics, And then you can, kind of, that's something that takes skill from a microbiologist. It takes a lot of practice to go in and do this. So to have these really nice pictures of the organisms that we're seeing all the time on the bench is really is a really cool thing. And then I also really like that they give this option for zoomed in on the colonies. And when you are a microbiologist, you need to get the fine details. So for example, a Pseudomonas aeruginosa is going to have like this metallic green sheen. Here's the green, here's the metallic. And so it would have another one over here for that organism if that's what you're working up. But that's a key clue for our students to say, oh, this is probably a Pseudomonas, so I need to do XYZ testing. So it does give that nice detail. And so here are our gram stains that I was talking about on the other tab. And so the students can go in and they can say, oh yeah, this is a gram-positive cocci, or this is a gram-negative rod, or this is a gram-positive rod. And just depending on what the organism from the plate is above. And so I can apply this and want my students to go in and practice a lot of gram stains. So I can go in and assign, read, 30 gram stains, and it will have them, and they can go in and practice reading gram stains, which is a critical skill for us. Another part of the simulator is that we can do some bench biochemical tests. So this is what's called a catalase test. And it's something that, a lot of clinical laboratories are still doing on the bench rather than molecularly. And so I can go in, I can have the students perform this catalase test, and then they can go in and they can say, this is catalase positive or this is catalase negative. And then it will give them if it was the correct answer or not. And then in addition to that, it will have you say, okay, so based on all of the results you have gotten so far, what is this organism? And you can click the drop down box and it will give them options for that. So you can see it provides a lot of different tools and not necessarily adaptability, but variability, where I can go in and I can say, okay, my students need practice on plate reading, so I'm going to assign plate reading, or they need practice with gram stains, so I'm going to assign that. Students also have given us really positive feedback since we've been learning this, because they have, microbiology is one where you need the practice, and they will ask us, can we come into lab and work up extra cultures? And that's fine, they can come into lab, but the problem with that is we need at least 24 hours notice, because we've got to get the organisms growing. So if it's something where they just want to practice on the weekend, they can't come in just to practice. And then we also usually don't have myself in there when they're in there doing their wet labs. It's usually just a lab aide, and they're not technically supposed to ask the lab aide for, hey, I think that it might be a Pseudomonas. Am I working this up correctly? The lab aide is mostly there just to make sure everyone's being safe. So this is a really nice tool, because they can be working through these simulations or these case studies, and they can take a screenshot and shoot me an email, and I can reply back, relatively quickly and say, oh no, this is why, you missed this when you were thinking a streptococcus, but based off of the catalase test, it should have been a staphylococcus type deal. So students are liking that they can just, oh, I've got extra time, at 7 o'clock at night, I'm going to hop on and I'm going to practice, we're reading my gram-negative rods or reading my gram stains. So this was my presentation on MediaLab, and I appreciate you sitting through it, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.